Venezuelan authorities reject a ruling of British court against the Venezuela Central Bank appointment in the case of Venezuelan gold deposit in the Bank of England. In Colombia, the Caribbean regional meeting of the historic pact with social movement to address the new government's agenda move forward. In Angola, the first week of the elections campaign went smoothly. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Marrero from teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The government of Venezuela rejected the resolution of the United Kingdom to deny its access to over $1 billion in Venezuelan gold held in the Bank of England. The Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, described as an unusual decision the ruling issued by the British Justice on its gold reserves. The High Official indicated that the authorities of different central banks of the world have communicated with Caracas to express their concern after knowing the ruling. Rodriguez called on London to rectify and correct the decision of the British justice system, which only obeys the foreign policy of the United Kingdom, which in this case consists in the legitimate appropriation of patrimony of Venezuelans. She commented that the Central Bank of Venezuela took a position on the ruling and informed that it will resort to all legal instances to revert the sentence.
I must responsibly inform that President Nicolás Maduro has in his hand a conclusive proof that will be shown in the next days. I call on the British government. They have the opportunity to correct. They have the opportunity to return to a correct course in accordance with public international law, in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations in relation to Venezuela.
In Colombia, the Caribbean regional meeting of the historic pact with social movements to address the new government's agenda moved forward. During the meeting, it was expected that citizens and indigenous organizations that have come down from the Sierra Nevada to present their concern regarding the need to initiate dialogues with the armed groups that affect the region. Issues related to infrastructure, education, budget law, and political reforms were also discussed, which will allow the new government of Gustavo Petro to bring opportunities to the Colombian Caribbean. Colombia's outgoing president, Ivan Duque, enacts a law that regulates the formation of national congressional commissions. The legitimate instruments establishes the structure of the institutions and incorporates 16 new special transitory peace constituencies in the House of Representatives in compliance with the peace agreements between the state of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Although the legislative act aims to strengthen the democratic participation of the communities affected by the armed conflict, it is a legitimate tool that should have been incorporated from the date of the agreement. Negotiations and alliances among political forces continue in Brazil in the run-up to the October elections, while Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva retains a wild lead in the electoral presence. With the presence of former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva, the Brazilian Socialist Party held its national convention in the city of Brasilia, an event that will have to prove the candidacy of the former governor Geraldo Alckmin for the vice presidency of the Republic and deliberate on coalitions. On the other hand, the candidate Luciano Bivarda informed that together with his political team, he is studying the possibility of gliding his candidacy to support the former President Lula da Silva from the first electoral round. In this context, the polling institute Datafolha indicated that Lula da Silva leads the polls as the possible winner of the first round with 51.6% approval, followed by President Jair Bolsonaro, who obtained 30% of the support among those polls. The Ministry of Education of Bolivia informed that on August 1st, classes will restart in the country under the presential and semi-presential modality. Edgar Parry, the head of the portfolio, releases this information and points out that the data will return in person with the corresponding winter schedule, always with the purpose of taking care of the health of the students in each educational unit. The head of the Bolivian portfolio valued that if an infected student is notified as established in the school protocol, on-site classes will be suspended and the virtual modality will be used. According to Edgar Parry, the autonomous municipal governments must guarantee adequate infrastructure conditions in the educational units and biosecurity supplies. Social movements in El Salvador demands the release of political prisoners. The Committee of Relatives of Political Prisoners of El Salvador announced that their rights have been violated and the process has been disrespected. They also regret that a year after the capture of these people, many are still in prison, but none of them have been convicted due to the lack of evidence. The committee also rejected the persecution and imprisonment of opponents to the government through the political implementation of a rule of exception. This Thursday, members of this organization gathered in front of the capital of the country, carrying banners with photographs of the detainees and lit candles symbolizing the hope for freedom. The Prime Minister, Russell Skerritt, presented an update of the development of the international airport delivered during the first meeting of the third session of the 10th Parliament.
And this major project will be delivered to the people of Dominica by 2026. We have selected the right partner to ensure that this becomes a reality. During this fiscal year, we look forward to the following key milestones to be undertaken: the completion of mobilization for the commencement of work, construction of culverts for waterways, commencing earthworks by the end of this year, and cotton field activities to level the site. The development of this airport will increase opportunities for contractors, construction workers, engineers, plumbers, electricians, and other service providers. During the high volume of work, the supplies which will be required, as well as the expected high level of employment, many people and businesses in Dominica are expected to benefit during the construction of the international airport.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Given the worsening of the situation in Haiti and the absence of answers and solutions from the executive, there have been demonstrations throughout the country calling for the removal of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. Convened by the Regional Coordinating Platform of the Southern Organization and the Federation of Organizations of the Department of Yatmel, demonstrators gathered at different cities where, in addition to expressing the reaction of the government, they collect signatures in support of a new political force, the Mountain Agreement, which gathered some 600 platforms of prominent leaders who are demanding the setup of a new government. Demonstrators who were dispersed by police were trying to block some roads, claim that the current administration has failed to restore security, but far from it, it has allowed criminal gangs to take control over large areas of the country. At least 5 Haitians drowned and 68 others were rescued after a suspected human smuggled boat dropped to group off in waters near the uninhabited island west of Puerto Rico. In a statement, the Coast Guard said the bodies were found by Puerto Rico Department of Natural Environmental Resources Park, the Rangers of Mona Islands, adding that 66 survivors, including 2 minors, were safely assured. United States Coast Guard spokesman Ricardo Costard said no additional people were missing based on interviews with survivors, and that for 1 man and 25 women and 2 children survive, with none having any urgent medical issue. In Cuba, people and state institutions are complying with government instructions to strengthen the fight against dengue fever. At a meeting with the Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel, epidemiology experts reported that there are more diagnosis tests and hospital beds being made available. According to data provided by Public Health Minister Jose Angel Portal, this week 23,758 unspecified febrile cases have been reported. That is almost 6,000 more than the previous week. The experts present at the meeting proposed that use of the straw insect technique. Researchers from the Pedro Corey Tropical Medicine Institute said this method is effective and that they have the capability to develop it. Meanwhile, epidemiology authorities in every province are implementing this awareness campaign so that each citizen becomes an agent of prevention. In Brazil, the Ministry of Health has reported that today the country has registered 265 deaths due to COVID-19. With such figures, Brazil continues to be the second nation in the world with the highest number of deaths due to the pandemic. According to the available data, the total number of COVID-related fatalities in the country jumped to 678,069. Meanwhile, for 40,582 new cases have been confirmed, which brings the number of infections since the beginning of the pandemic to more than 33 million. In the U.S., a flash flooding caused by torrential rains has killed at least 3 people in eastern Kentucky and left some residents stranded on the rooftops and in trees. Local authorities confirmed that the death, including an 81-year-old woman in Perry County, as she expected double digits flood-related demissions. Many roads resemble rivers, mangled cars fly to the landscapes, and muddy browns floodwaters lap against the rooftops of low-lying houses in the state's Appalachian region. Some areas reported receiving more than 20 centimeters of rain in a 24-hour period. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear said a state of emergency had been declared in half of thousands counties, and for the National Guard's helicopters have been deployed to help with rescue efforts.
We have now lost at least 15 Kentuckians, though that number is going to grow. It'll probably more than double. We know some of the lost will include children. We may have even lost entire families. We have over 23,000 Kentuckians still without power, many counties without water.
We have more news coming up after this financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Angola, the first week of the election campaign went on more smoothly. The political tension of the pre-election period dropped considerably, and the tone of the candidates has also become more positive, according to Luis Jimbo from the Angola Electoral Observatory. The ruling PLS has also urged its supporters to avoid practices that taint the electoral process. The tense moments will persist until August 24th elections, as evidenced by the refusal of an opposition march on Saturday in Luanda, with authorities and promoters fencing of divergence arguments. About 3 days after terrorists fatally ambushed soldiers of an elite unit of the Nigerian army in Abuja, the military reinforced and returned to the area of the attack to conduct a clearance patrol. At the end of the exercise, at least 30 terrorists were killed. The terrorists had fatally ambushed members of the Presidential Guard Brigade earlier this morning in the Buari area of the Federal Capital Territory. According to the Director of Defense and Media Operation, Major General Bernard Oyenku, the clearance patrol was conducted by troops of the 7 Guards Battalion and Special Forces in conjunction with the air component of Operation World Punch. Oyenku confirmed that the group troops also recovered 6 motorcycles, 2 AK-47 rifles, and 1 fully loaded light machine gun magazine during the operation. The 16th National Assembly of Cambodia passed a draft constitution during its 7 sessions with 105 votes in favor out of 106 votes. Earlier this month, the Council of Ministers agreed to pass 8 amendments to Cambodian constitutions and submit them to a National Assembly. The amendments aim to ensure that the normal operation of national institutions after 9 revisions since its promulgation on September 24, 1993. Deputy Prime Minister Bin Shin, who is in charge of the Office of the Council of Ministers, said that this 10th amendment aimed to ensure that the supreme institution of the country, especially the executive body whose main task is to lead the common works of the state, thus ensuring, protecting, and preserving peace, social security, public order, and political stability of the nation in all circumstances. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Friday that the African National Congress Party was at its weakest after a historic loss in municipal polls last year. The party leader spoke at the 6th ANC Policy Conference in Johannesburg and used the meeting to give South Africans hope. All this happened as the continent's most advanced economy faces a raft of socio-economic crisis. Critics have stated that the government lack of a national plan to tackle poverty, inequality, and 43.5% unemployment worsened by the coronavirus pandemic, or even provides basic services such as electricity and water. Pope Francis made his final stop on his 6-day visit to Canada in the Accolade capital city of the Inuit territory of Nunavut. The visit marked the first ever papal visit to Canada's new territory and, for some, a potential turning point in the 10th century long relationship between the Catholic Church and the Inuit Canada. Equality was welcomed world leaders before the Queen Elizabeth visited in 2002, 3 years after Nunavut was carved out of the eastern portion of the Northwest Territories to become a territory of its own. During his papal tour, Pope Francis focused mainly on apologizing for abuses of indigenous youth at Catholic-run boarding school.
Iglesia en Canadá, después
The Church in Canada, after experiencing the hurt and devastation caused by some of its members, has begun a new path. I am thinking in particular of the sexual abuse committed against minors and vulnerable people, crimes that require strong action and an irreversible fight. I would like, together with you, to ask again for forgiveness to all the victims.
Pedir nuevamente perdón a todas las víctimas.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow backs Beijing's one China policy on Taiwan and called on the United States not to aggravate the situation over the island.
We have no problems with upholding the principle of China's sovereignty. And we proceed from the fact that no irritants, no provocations that can aggravate this situation will be undertaken. Our position regarding the one China policy remains unchanged. The United States periodically confirms the same position with the words they use, but in practice, as you know, their deeds do not always coincide with their words.
teleSUR English continues to grow. It's in and now reaches Europe, and you can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July the 1st, and quite soon, further changes will be implemented for the signal in the Middle East and Africa. Now more than ever, the world connects to us, and our stories are being heard all around the globe. This news multi-platform will continue providing trustful content to oppose the hegemonic media's narrative on our faithfulness to our audience. And with that story, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. teleSUR English, and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.